Hi, everyone. Welcome back to What Happens in Vegas podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Canestraro. And today we have Kayse Gehret, and she's the founder of Microdosing for Healing. And I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
How did you get into microdosing and being so passionate about this sacred medicine?
Good question. So
Let's start there.
I would say it was kind of built in innate. Like from the time I was a young child, I wanted to go into health and wellness in some capacity. Spent many years wanting to be a doctor, started pre-med in college. And then I got the notice that it was time to move to the West Coast, and I followed that intuition. There I discovered quote unquote alternative medicine, went into somatics and body work, spent many years developing that practice, studied many different modalities. And I was always curious about psychedelic medicines, but always stayed away from, honestly, all drugs because I had a grand mal seizure disorder.
Oh, wow.
So I was very reticent to destabilize my mind anymore. And I always knew it came from just having a very highly sensitive nervous system
Mhm.
and disrupted vagus nerve,
Mhm.
honestly. But doctors medicated me with Western pharma. They helped repress them, but never completely subsided, nor got to the root of what was really going on. But when I was in my 30s and I encountered the idea of microdosing, that I could get behind. I was like, I'm not going to be altered. I'm not going to be trippy. I'm not going to go anywhere. And I didn't really know what to expect. There wasn't a lot of information. I didn't know anybody out there. There weren't any books at the time. And so I started, and after a few months, I realized I hadn't had a single aura seizure, and I hadn't had a headache. I'd had headaches pretty commonly, often throughout my life, and I've never had one since. So I healed my seizures, and also a whole host of benefits came in. So when the pandemic happened in California, I had healing art studios at the time. I had 4 healing art studios doing group classes and touch therapies. So we were pretty toasted with
Yeah.
we were the first to close and the last to open. So during that time, I was like, back in 2020, I was like, what can I do online to bring health and wellness and healing and community together during this time we're all locked down? And I put together a program to support people in a 6-week microdosing protocol, patterning it after what I had experienced when I did it for practice for myself. And from the start, that we had a remarkable first cohort, and it just kind of evolved from there
Mhm.
to now today we have a global community, professional programs, and immersive programs in microdosing.
That's amazing. And I know a lot of people are very interested in this subject, but they might also be a little bit nervous. So, like, what actually is a microdose? Like, what can people expect when they do a microdose? Like, what, just a little bit of insight there.
Yeah, they're my people. So that's
Yeah.
who I work with most of the time. I work with a lot of high performance people who can't be weird. They're
Yeah.
like nervous about being trippy or weird or stoned or kind of outside of themselves. I also work with a lot of kind of Gen Xers, all
Yeah.
right, who were heavily influenced in conditions with that these are drugs to avoid. You could be destabilized. So I work with a lot of people who never thought that they would ever be working with mushrooms. It's just not them. So one of the things I love about microdosing is that it's so subtle. So it's about 1/10 of the dose that it would take to journey
Mhm.
or trip on a medicine. So you're not feeling altered in any way. You do feel effects, however. Most people in the first few days feel an uplift in their cognitive functioning, an uplift in their overall mood, and kind of a stabilization of their nervous system. It's a deeply healing reset for your nervous system in a lot of ways. So I always tell people you're going to feel benefits, but you're not going to feel outside of yourself. In fact, you actually feel more at home in
Mhm.
yourself, and everything improves. Your
Mhm.
mind improves, but also your reflexes improve. You're more dialed in, you're more focused, you're articulate, all the things. So even the most wary people, usually within a few days, they get their confidence as soon as they begin. And they realize, like, not only do I not feel out of it, I actually feel more dialed in than I have before.
And what do you see the most benefit with for people? Like, is it like because you had the seizure disorders? Are you working a lot with people? Like, do you attract a lot of people that are having seizures, or is it more like anxiousness? Like, because I know in this time, like, toxic load is so high. Like, post COVID, like, all of the anxiety and like mast cell destabilization, like, people need something to calm their nervous system, right? So what is it that you're working with the most?
It's everything. It's
Mhm,
all the things at this point. It's really during COVID, it was a lot of anxiety with being locked down,
mhm,
feeling fearful, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of limitation. A lot of people were working with lifestyle habits then. They were like, I was leaning on the alcohol a little bit too much during the pandemic, those kind of things, or moving away from certain not healthy lifestyle choices to more healthy lifestyle. Since that time, though, it's really evolved to we see mental health issues, but
mhm,
we also see people who want to become more emotionally resilient in
mhm,
rapidly changing, unpredictable times. We have a lot of people who come for physical conditions, nervous system dysregulation. Yes, I tend to get a lot of those because they hear my story
mhm.
and they've done all the things, they've tried all the things. I also get a lot of chronic health concerns and autoimmune concerns where people have like, I've done everything there is to do. I've taken every program, every pill. I've gone to so many doctors and specialists. I've done all the things. I want to try this. And then lately, we have a lot of people coming who want to work on their spiritual connection, which
Mhm.
is really, really beautiful. They want to cultivate something within themselves that is beyond themselves.
Yeah.
And earth medicines are really beautiful for that too.
It's interesting you say that because I went through severe Lyme, and the biggest, most depressing thing about it that I realized coming out of it was that you feel completely disconnected to like anything higher and above you, right? And because it is one of those situations where you do feel so hijacked that it is scary to put something foreign that you think could cause even though, I know all the benefits, and even like I've toyed with doing like an actual kind of journey when you're going at the higher dose too. But what do you think, like, do you think there's a time sometimes opposed like comparing microdosing to doing like a full dose of psilocybin? Like, or if a microdose isn't working, do you ever suggest that, or do you solely work with microdosing?
Yeah, great question. So I exclusively work with microdosing,
Mhm.
but a lot of times we prepare people to
Mhm.
do a journey with microdosing. So I
Mhm.
work with a lot of journey guides in
Mhm.
collaboration. And so it's very, very common for people to start microdosing and say, I know that I would benefit from a deeply healing, deep journey with a guide at some point, but I want to prepare myself. I want to prepare my physical body. I want to do some cleansing, some detoxing and preparation to get really confident and trusting in the medicine before I get to that. It's kind of like one of my colleagues used the frame. He's like, when you're skiing, like you don't start at the black diamond, you
Yeah.
start on the bunny slope. So
Yeah.
microdosing is like started on the bunny slope till
Mhm.
you kind of get your confidence, you get familiar with your skis. You have a guide beside you, teaching you and helping you along the way, and then
Mhm.
you work your way up to the journey.
And when you do the microdosing, because I've seen a lot of I've been looking into some of the microdosing capsules, and then some of them are blended with like lion's mane or, other. Do you blend any of like the mushrooms when you're doing your microdosing?
Yes, I credit the stack of lion's mane and psilocybin together for healing my seizures.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
stack those two together. So anytime I work with anybody who has deep nervous system regulation, I almost always stack lion's mane together with psilocybin. Lion's mane, for those of you who are listening, in like the farmer's market or the natural food store, is that big shaggy mushroom that
Yeah.
kind of looks like a lion head, and it's incredibly effective for neurogenesis,
Mhm.
growing new neurons. And a lot of people have had a lot of progress with conditions that they were told by Western medicine couldn't heal. And
Mhm.
that's everything from TBI, concussions, stroke recovery. I know you work with a lot of hockey players. I would get them, yeah, so working with hockey players, I would get them on psilocybin and lion's mane as
Mhm.
soon as possible because it's not only deeply healing, it's also deeply preventative in keeping your brain strong.
I work with other mushrooms. I've just not worked with psilocybin, but I mean, I haven't personally, but I've worked with a lot of people that are getting benefits from it, which makes me so interested in it, right? So I've tried some crazy stuff, but it's just not, I don't think it's crazy, by the way, but it's not something that I have gotten to yet, but I've been very deeply interested in it. So what does it do in the brain that makes it like, what is it affecting? Like, how is it changing this? Like, as far as you know?
Good question. I feel like science, we only know, I think 20 years from now, we're going to look back and go, that's so funny. Like we knew so little. We thought we knew, we were looking at the whole iceberg and we were
Yeah.
looking at like a snowflake. So these medicines are so wise. I always remind people, like, rather than categorizing them as a drug or a supplement, think of them as a sentient being that have a natural intelligence that has lived through 5 extinction events. Right?
Yeah.
And so there's so much to them. But in terms of our knowing, we focus right now. So psilocybin, once it's digested in the body, converts to psilocin. That plays on the serotonin receptors. So most people are aware of serotonin receptors and its place in our mood.
Hmm.
And we have a tendency to focus all things on the brain in this moment, but we
Yeah.
actually have many more serotonin receptors in the gut.
Hmm.
So the gut brain axis is what's going on in our gut is just as important. And I think that's why psilocybin plays so well on those receptors. And so it affects our mood, but it also affects our intuition too. And
Hmm.
our gut feeling, kind of reconnecting us with our own innate knowing, is
Hmm.
also very, very common with practice too. So the way it works on those receptors, it opens up a window of neuroplasticity and expansiveness. And that's why it's so important to pair with another practice. It could be coaching, it could be lifestyle, it could be functional medicine, it could be sound healing, it could be executive coaching in the business world. Because once you open up this window of change and possibility, it's a beautiful time to kind of start to orient yourself into new, to take advantage and kind of harness this expansiveness, to move in the direction that you would like to move.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you start it, what are something that people feel? Like first, like just a little bit more calm.
In the first week, I would say the most common things I hear in the first week is cognitive uplift. So people are just like, I'm sharper, I'm clear, my memory is on, I'm just more present, I'm
Hmm.
clear, I'm more articulate. They also say nature just kind of pops. They often describe it as they're not tripping, but it's almost like going, my life went from like black and white to color. And I
Hmm.
didn't even realize I was in black and white. But
Hmm.
now that like everything is just take on a new vibrancy, particularly nature. So if people can go out hiking the first couple days that you start, it's really special to be outside because the light just catches differently. Nature catches differently. Animals respond to you differently. Women notice within the first few weeks, a lot of women notice their periods and their hormone just sinking. Like again, so people who had really irregular periods will kind of come into balance and return to regular cycles again,
Hmm.
evening out of periods, less menstrual, up and down,
Hmm.
cramps and mood fluctuation. So
Hmm.
it's really just bringing us into a greater balance in all things.
Hmm. Does psilocybin actually cross the blood-brain barrier or the what it gets broken down into, or is it working through the gut receptors up through the vagus nerve? Do we know that part, or is it?
It's most of the way we are working with it now is ingesting.
Yeah.
Most of the research, it's interesting. Most people don't know this. When people are doing academic research and the research on psilocybin that we hear about, it's all with synthetic
Oh.
versus natural mushroom. And
Oh,
so
okay.
that administration, yes. And so it excites me because the research is showing such strong positive results. And that's with the synthetic. Like just
Yeah.
wait until people experience the real thing with all of the other compounds in the mushroom because psilocin is just one compound.
Mhm.
And there's so many other compounds within psilocybin mushrooms that have great, great health benefits, mental well-being benefits, and so on. So right now, most of us are converting psilocin through our digestive system.
Mhm. Mhm.
But that's an interesting question that a different conversion process would be different.
Yeah, but and I mean, it's just like herbs, right? Or like most medicine people don't know is based on all of them are based on something in nature. And then they take the one active component of it. So it's just like herbs. So it's just like the using of a full plant, you get some things are upregulated, some things are downregulated. So we aren't smart enough, like you said, these are have been around for longer than us. They have this, and we all have, if we can tune in, like an innate connection, but they are definitely powerful when they're working on so many different parts of our body and our being, right?
Yes.
Are there any downsides? Do you ever see anyone who can't take it or who like like even in a microdose, like it just doesn't work for them, or is it? Yeah.
Yep, the most like who doesn't it work for or who quits? The
Who
people often
quits?
ask me like who quits this practice? Oftentimes, I would say far and away the most common reason, and it doesn't happen often,
Mhm,
but psilocybin is really a non-specific amplifier.
mhm.
It makes more of what is already there. It makes visible what is invisible, and so it tends to bring things up. And so people really need to be honest and ready for
Okay.
that kind of healing, right? And so it's like the things that dysregulated our nervous system, rather than medicating them, which Western medicine is usually how it handles things, it's kind of
Uh-huh.
investigating what caused that dysregulation in the first place to bring it forth. So sometimes when you're working with psilocybin, it can destabilize you. You know, you're still functional, you're still living your day to day life, but you might have some tears that are
Yeah.
shed. You might have some irritability and crankiness,
Yeah.
right? And kind of righteous anger that comes up and surface. And so if you're someone that's really uncomfortable with emotions and feeling, it can be a little bit not what you're expecting, right?
Uh-huh.
Because if you're just expecting it to be a drug that's going to make you happy all the time, that's not exactly how it works,
Yeah.
right? And then also, too, sometimes people, if you're going through something very, very intense, like we all go through times where we have a physical health condition that kind of brings us to our knees, or we're going through a breakup, or we're going through a great loss. I always encourage people if you're like in the raw state of emotion where you can't fathom things getting even more intense than they already are,
Uh-huh.
psilocybins might not be the best medicine to start with. There are other medicines we might suggest just to kind of like bring you down to get you to a reset place, a very stable place, and then work with psilocybin later when you're more resourced.
What would be something that you would do earlier on if you're not going down the psilocybin route?
This year, we're noticing just because the collective anxiety is up for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
is that we're often starting with people on Amanita is another mushroom. It's a little cute little red mushroom with the white dots. That has a beautiful that works on the GABA system rather than the serotonin receptors. And so it's really beautiful deep reset for the nervous system, but doesn't tend to bring up as much of emotions that
Uh-huh.
psilocybin does. So sometimes we'll start people on a 30-day protocol of Amanita first. And also I've been working with San Pedro, which is also known as Wachuma, which is a cactus medicine for microdosing too, also has a really, really beautiful nervous system effect, and it's very smooth and very even. So just this year is so particularly volatile, particularly here in the US. It's like every day is a new circus and in the media and the overculture. So it's really that kind of consistency has
Yeah.
been very welcome in people's system.
Yeah. I think GABA needs to be turned on for sure. Like, as far as like, we're working a lot on getting people's GABA, giving them either the raw materials to try and increase it. And again, there's always something, a time and a place for everything. Yeah, I definitely see that. And the Amanita mushrooms, though, those have to be very microdosed, no? Because like I guess all the mushrooms are poisonous in bigger amounts, right? Like where it like
Yeah.
this breathing and
Amanita gets Amanita gets so much stigma. She's like the mysterious mushroom that people like really have a strong reaction to. And I think that comes from centuries back, witches, being identified with the supernatural and the mystical. And also, not surprisingly, Amanita is the only mushroom that cannot be grown in a lab, that cannot be grown by man. She has to be grown only in the forest. And so she's resistant to pharmaceutical industry getting its hands around what she can do because she can't be copied, she can't be manufactured. So why not stigmatize that, right?
oh, that's crazy.
But Amanita is really beautiful. You want to be very careful with all of your sourcing for medicine. That's why in our community we have sourcing partners all around the world who we
Mhm.
know and trust. Are very
Yeah.
close to the medicines. And so you're getting very high integrity quality sourcing. Amanita is you want to make sure you get the right species of Amanita and
Mhm.
also too that it's decarbed and prepared properly.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a beautiful microdosing medicine, especially for people who are having very high anxiety and a very hard time sleeping.
Right. And what is a microdose of those ones? Like how many
It's
milligrams? or micrograms or
It's very different than psilocybin. That's why when people are used to working with psilocybin, sometimes people look at what you microdose amanita and go, "Oh my gosh, that's so much!" And it's like it's
yeah,
just completely different medicine.
yeah, yeah.
So it varies depending on the person what they're working with, but it can be 300 milligrams to 500 milligrams. It can actually be much higher. A microdose of psilocybin tends to be somewhere. Our community tends to work 50 milligrams up to 150 milligrams is most common.
And then what about, do you do any work with ayahuasca plants or ayahuasca?
I don't. I've worked with many people who work with ayahuasca and are using microdosing to prepare for an ayahuasca journey or integrating an ayahuasca journey, but I don't. Yeah, ayahuasca is more challenging. I guess you could microdose it, but I have never worked with that as a microdosing medicine.
I've never heard of it as a microdosing either. That's why I was asking, because honestly, it sounds so intense. So you're like, how could you not microdose it and maybe get
Uh,
because I've heard some stories. I've heard some amazing stories, and then you hear some like when people can't like reintegrate into reality type of thing. So I've
Mhm.
heard that less so with psilocybin, which even with the dose that makes you quote unquote journey than I have for ayahuasca, which is
Yes.
a tea. It's a herb, right, that they steep. Anyways, it's not about that. It's about
Yes.
microdosing. Okay, so you're
Yes.
talking about the cleanliness. So you guys source it. Do you have any that you sell like that are like are they your own kind of brand that you're doing? Like so you source them and you've branded them or you're
We don't, and I don't, which is how I can be so public about this work.
okay.
So it's changing. Its legal status is changing all the time. So some
Yeah.
states in the United States are decriminalized, some are legalized, some are still it's a crime in
Oh,
different states and places. It's varying degrees. When we first started out back in 2020, we taught people to grow their own at
oh
home.
wow.
And so it was during the pandemic. People had all kinds of time on their hands to grow things and start new hobbies. And so people grew their own medicines at home, which is really fun and still a beautiful way if you have time and interest to kind of cultivate your own medicines that you use is a beautiful practice. But now, thankfully, we have public facing partners who are available for people to access sourcing so that we can stay separate from the medicines themselves, but still know people are accessing really safe, beautiful medicine. So we have a collaborator in Canada called Maya Luna. And they provide all of our Canadian clients and participants with medicines.
Yeah, I feel like it was not, it's been legal here, right? For a while. Like, or we were
In
the first
Canada,
ones in Canada?
Canada just kind of went for it. We are
Yeah.
kind of all watching you guys down here because I remember going. I spoke at a conference back. I want to say in 2022, and in Vancouver, and it blew my mind. I was like, there were like shops. I was like, I was like, is it legal here? And my Canadian friends were like, no, but there were just mavericks that way, and so it's uh, it's very similar to the US, I think, where it depends on where you are. Some places are not technically legal, but people are just going for it and open about it. So
Hmm.
I always encourage people to be aware what's going on where you live, especially once you start this practice. It very quickly becomes absurd that it's illegal because
Yeah.
it's so healing and it actually makes you a better person.
Hmm.
So the fact that it's illegal and it's a crime is really counterintuitive once you start, but it's good to know in this changing world, like what is actually going on legally where I'm living.
Yeah. It's interesting that like alcohol is illegal everywhere and it's like pretty much only downsides like for your liver. I mean, you get this short amount of time where you might be euphoric, but like if you think of all the crimes that happen if someone's drunk or drunk, yeah, it's kind of crazy to see what becomes legal and illegal. And I know it's not straightforward.
Yeah, I mean the net on society of alcohol plus the net of the toxicity of our body. You
Yeah,
know, it's so terrible for our vessels that
yeah,
yeah, it's crazy. I think the future human's going to look back on us in this time and just kind of
I know.
smile at us in our ignorance. Yeah.
I know, but it's always so confusing because there's like cigarettes, they had nicotine, but now nicotine's a health thing, and like you're it's confusing. It's up to the regular consumer to keep up with what's going on. So what, when you're talking about sourcing, what are you looking for so that people, if they are sourcing their own after they hear this, like what are you looking for? Like, for castor oil, I know it has to be organic and it has to be in a in an, an Auburn bottle, like it has to be a brown bottle so it doesn't get oxidized. Like, what are the little like caveats that maybe people should know?
Yeah.
If they work with you, that's great. But just say someone listens and they go on their own.
Yeah, I mean, we're open. We have a source medicine partner in Canada. We have a medicine partner in the United States that we share freely, and so they know them. Their faces, recognizable faces. So I would say, if possible, know your farmer. It's
Uh,
just like it's nice to know who's growing your food. It's nice to know who's making your medicines, the story behind the company. Is it a real thing? And trust me, like the integrity and the heart behind these medicines really deeply matters. I know it's really not just who's close by, who's easy, who's cheapest. Like the way that in which they're held is really substantially part of your result. So I know at the very beginning, I've worked with the same medicine makers for many years in the US, and I know a large part of the credit of why people had the results that they did was due to the fact of how high quality their medicines are.
yeah. So if they're not high quality, what are they contaminated with, or what is being done improperly?
Humans,
Yeah.
humans. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of things. Oftentimes they don't even have, they say they call themselves a mushroom bars. Oftentimes they're testing them and they don't have any mushrooms at all. They're just other synthetics and compounds.
Okay. So
Yeah.
high quality stuff. So, but what about, is there anything with actually farming them or like growing them? Like, do people sometimes spray them with chemicals, or do they become contaminated? Like, like, what is it that we're,
Our medicine makers are very careful about that. Yeah, they're all organic. Almost all of the compounds are vegan. They try to work vegan as much as possible. They're like over the top. They grow them on crystals. They
oh,
sing
wow.
to them. they're their babies. They're so loved. But I would say if you're out looking at sourcing, if it's possible to identify like who is growing them, and if that's not possible, know other people who use them and in this work, referring them who's done this a while, and just know like quality matters. Like, especially if you're going to be journeying or it's your first time microdosing, this is really a once in a lifetime experience. Like,
Yeah.
this experience could legitimately change your life and all of your health. It's worth spending, a little bit more on that experience.
Yeah.
And so if you see things being sold at a gas station, if you see things being sold at a shop, it's not going to be the same. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, I often tell people, it's kind of like, imagine the difference in the taste and quality of something grown by a farmer you meet at the farmer's market
Yeah.
versus like a mass produced shop, right?
So, yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Is there anything when you're microdosing that you shouldn't take if people are doing, does it interfere with any pharma or anything like that that people should be?
Great question. Yeah. I mean, this is almost everybody, right? I mean, very few people aren't on anything taking something. So everybody often on their intakes is like, I take hormone replacement therapy, or I'm on thyroid stuff, or I'm on this stuff for my autoimmune condition, or I take Tylenol once in a while. Before, we just had to learn through experience. And we have a pharmacist we consult with, that's available to our community. So Western Pharma, to do consults. If someone has like a very complicated medical pharma situation going on, you might want to go. But my friend and colleague Kristen Spear developed a wonderful tool called the Psychedelic Interaction Tracking Tool, where it's
Nice.
online and you can just go on, it's at psychedelicinteraction.com, and you just put in all the meds you're on, and it will cross check instantly with psilocybin to let you know if there's any contraindications and how your medications will play with your microdosing regimen.
That's really cool. That's a great resource to have. They don't have that for a lot of things. So they should,
Yeah.
it would be nice. I don't know, maybe I guess a benefit of possibly for AI that we could learn a lot and be able to, make sure that nothing's interacting even more than the psilocybin. So do you yourself microdose? I'm assuming.
Yes, I do. Yes.
I
Yes,
mean, I know you
absolutely.
did, but do you just continue now? What is it? Do you
Yeah,
cycle on and off? Like, what does it look like?
that's a great question. So that's another big, big misconception, that are people coming in new who are curious and they think it's going to be like a pharmaceutical prescription. Like, if I start this process and this practice and I have these benefits, is it something I have to keep doing to keep those benefits going? No, absolutely not. So everybody has this experience after 6 weeks or 3 months of practice. They have these benefits, they have certain healing happen. And then they're curious, like, if I stop, is it going to come back? Like, am I going to start to feel or experience the symptoms that I had before? Rarely ever. Like, I never worry about my seizures coming back
Mhm.
ever. And I'll go many, many, many months without microdosing actively. It's not something I have to keep doing. So that's one thing with microdosing and mushrooms in particular that's really fascinating for people is to know the microdosing is like just the key that unlocks your own healing. But
Mhm.
once you got it, you keep it.
Yeah.
And then you just evolve from there. So people do keep microdosing. Like I will keep coming back to it throughout my life, but I'm
Mhm.
always working on new intentions. So
Yeah.
sometimes people will start off and they're like, I want to work on my migraines and I want to drink less alcohol. And they'll start off with that, but a year later they come back to it and they want to work on completely different intentions.
Yeah. And have you seen anything, because you're getting these, huge shifts in people, and someone's like, "Oh, and then I went to my practitioner and I got my blood work and my this is better or that." Like, what's the biggest thing you hear like that?
Yes, I love this question because it is. It's such a beautiful cascade effect on the entire rest of your life. And we're so, like in Western medicine, it tends to be so siloed, right?
Mhm.
And people don't think about, okay, if I do this thing over here, it's going to affect all these other things over here. And that's how it works. It's a lot of people really see it after about 6 months on our calls because they're like, they start working and they feel better. And when they feel better, they sleep better. And when they sleep better, they eat better. And when they eat better, they lose weight. And then when they lose weight, they feel more vibrant and make new social connections. And it's just this beautiful snowball that
Mhm.
happens. And it's really like 6 months they can look back and go, wow, I didn't really feel anything. And that was really subtle, but boy, is my life in a different place than it was 6 months ago.
Mhm.
So, yes, absolutely. And a lot of people have come off, tons of people have come off alcohol very effortlessly without even intending to. Lots of people have moved off of just any kind of chronic dependent, like addictive type behaviors, also too quite effortlessly. And a lot of people have reduced their medications, as
Mhm.
you said, like a lot of people who were on kind of blood pressure medications they weren't microdosing to affect their blood pressure, but all these other things happened and they went to their doctor and they're like, I don't think you need this anymore. So they either greatly reduce or came off altogether.
I just had severe Lyme, and one of the girls that helped me a lot manually, she does craniosacral, but she also works with
Mhm.
psilocybin, and she's moved to Costa Rica now, but she just like you and her remind me of each other with like that more like zen calming like aura that you're giving off. So I just wanted to mention that. Even the way you guys talk about, like, the taste, like, it's just so, like, I've gotta try that. And then she's the one that got me interested in really, because I was just in such a high, like, stress place that, like, I got into this because I was sick. I was better for 10 years, and then all of a sudden, COVID times, whatever happened with collective energy there, a whole bunch of environmental changes plus a novel virus and all that, like, it literally was a whole can of worms of being, like, completely hijacked again. So, being around people with that energy was obviously really helpful, but, yeah, and then there's, like, that certain trust that you gain, and then you wanna, you know, do what they're doing, so I definitely will try it out, that's for sure.
I love it. I worked with a lot of people with Lyme, and
Yeah.
Lyme is such a layered there's so much to Lyme, as you know. There's like the physical things, but there's so many layers to it, spiritual layers, emotional layers, energetic layers. Lots of the most gifted channels and healers I know move through Lyme portals, they call
Yeah.
them of getting it and then reemergence of it over time. So, yeah, that's the beauty of working with I work with a lot of people with these chronic like really hard physical conditions and also just hard life conditions and psilocybin uniquely gets underneath.
Mhm.
Really underneath and it touches places in people that no talk therapy can reach and no like treatment, western treatment can reach yet in really incredible ways that we're only beginning to understand.
One of the things I did, and I didn't honestly have full informed consent, but I'm very thankful for it. And I remember sharing with my colleague who works in plant medicine that, like, it felt like I was on a trip, but without anyone to guide me through it, but I still came out on the other end, but it was an IV of like gold and platinum. Like it was, but I was told it was a mineral IV. And yes, those are minerals, but when you research gold and platinum, they have huge, like, activations of your immune system. And anyways, I was in such pain that once it relieved, I was so much better, but I felt like I was having an outer body experience. Right. And the healing that I had from that was more than any healing that I've had from anything else that I've done. And it's lasted from April until now, where it's like I'm completely like stabilized, like way more stable. So, it's like I've researched gold now like crazy, but it's the same type of thing that like, when I talk to my people who have done plant medicine, if it's like, psilocybin or ayahuasca, or it's the same kind of story when I'm talking to them. I'm like, yeah, I think that's what I had to go through, but without having someone guide me. Like I was just like, no shaman was there to tell me what was happening.
Yeah. I mean, if you talk to a lot of guides, they'll tell you they're doing what they do now so that they don't have to go through what they did alone. They kind of are being the thing that they wish they would have had, because that's not an uncommon story, what you just described.
Uh,
Yeah, among guides.
Yeah, but it just, I don't know, this whole everything that I've gone through, like it opens your eyes to many things that you'd be shut down from, like even like, or seeing what's helping my patients, like bee venom therapy, So like there's just things in nature that we just don't understand that have these powerful, powerful effects on the body. And yeah, it's just always blowing my minds for sure. And
Likewise.
yeah, but I love how passionate you are about this microdosing. And I love the idea of like small amounts. Like for me, working with a lot of Lyme patients now, or like chronic patients, it's always like, we're trying to find the like minimal therapeutic dose. Like I don't want you to suffer more. There's a lot of suffering, right? Like I don't want you to have to, every day is a journey, really. Every day you're having like such ups and downs, and sometimes not ups at all and just downs. If we can just get someone onto something that like you can slowly work through, I think that is really resonates with a lot of people like in my community. That's on one side. And then the other side, I'm working with high performing athletes. And that was who I've been working with since before I got sick, or got sick again, because I had the first emergence of Lyme and then the second. But when I work with them, it's a whole other thing where they have all these societal anxiety, or not social, they're in the media, right? So they're trying to perform well. They need to something to like zen them down. They have a high chance of getting chronic disease. And a lot of them suffer through Lyme, or symptoms that people don't realize that they're going through, right? So again, some of them are teaching me about these mushrooms and like telling me their stories. And I listen to my patients and then I try them out, what has helped them, instead of I send some people back where they've had magical changes in their health, or like, it's anecdotal evidence, God forbid, and they see a practitioner and they don't want to know anything about it. Like if something's helping you so much, like I want to know everything about it, like hence us speaking right now. So what am I missing though? What should people know that I haven't asked you yet that you want
No,
to talk
you
about?
nailed it. I just wanted to appreciate what you just shared, because that is really, really having a monumental effect. Like in the last year, I've had so many doctors and chiropractors and nurses coming into the program that said, okay, all my patients want this. Like, all my patients keep talking about it. They keep sharing their stories. And even though I might not, be able to offer this in my practice legally, I need to be able to get educated in it to know how this works so I can speak to them about it, and also know who it will be supportive to.
Mhm.
Because one of the things I've seen over and over again that's beautiful about psilocybin in particular, psilocybin's very relational medicine. It's very about works at your relationship with self, your relationship to others, relationships in your lives, your relationship yourself, like moving through the world. And so a lot of times psilocybin with people with chronic health things, they start microdosing and they're led to their medicine. And some psilocybin will help support them, but it's like the big turnkey, like your gold IV. It will lead them to something like that. And they're like, I've never even heard of this thing, or it just kind of came into my world. I see that over and over and over again. And that people are like, I was brought to Reiki. I didn't even know what Reiki was, but I did Reiki, and that was the thing for me. I was brought to combo medicine. I had never heard of this thing. They're like, I am in Iowa. We don't have a combo in Iowa,
Yeah.
but it's like the medicine, it's so beautiful. It's like the little spore that kind of delivers people to the person or the practice that's
Mm.
going to move the needle for you. So I love that. And I appreciate as all of the clinicians that are letting their curiosity lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very curious. Especially, I say that Lyme is one of the most humbling experiences that anyone could go through. So, if you want to feel like helpless and, I mean, I don't think I needed this lesson twice, but I did learn even more this second time. So, like, I don't want to learn in this manner anymore.
Got it, universe. Got it. Yeah. I love it. I mean, I was reading about your team and all the bios on your team page. It was noteworthy, like how many of all of your team have come to this work through their own health journey. And they
Mhm.
weren't able to get what they needed through the conventional paths and places where they were being led to. And it drew them to something new and different. And it's like that really comes through in your practice and all of you. I also love that you emphasize how important environment is. That you had a relapse when you were in Vegas
Mhm.
is probably not a coincidence.
No.
And it's something we don't think about as humans very often. We're like, "Oh, I was taken to the city for my job," or "I went to college here and I just
Mhm.
stayed there." We don't let our soul lead, like where we're going to thrive, where our physical body and our spirit are going to thrive. And so a lot of times people have these health conditions
Mhm.
because they're not living where they're supposed to live, or
Mhm.
they got really sick because of the energy and toxicity of the place that they were in. So I love that you weave that into
It's funny.
awareness.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, again, I also lived in a condo for all these years, and like I'm now like up north of Toronto, and then I live in Dominican because I when I was really sick, I ended up in Dominican because it was the only place that didn't have G that was rolled out yet, and that my body wasn't ready for that much energy. That's when like things had turned on. They had literally the same day that my symptoms turned on in Vegas, they also had turned on 5G plus only on the arena that I was in those days.
Wow.
And it was funny that the way that I saw that because I had a bunch of people have symptoms in their heart, which is fully electric and everything. And so, anyways, at that time, I had always gone to Dominican. I got married in Dominican, and it was like my little happy place, a little surf town. And so, I just was searching like who hasn't rolled out any 5G in that town. And so I went and stayed there. And while I was there, I had almost like no symptoms, even though I was still in, or I had much less symptoms, even though I was in the thick of it at that time. The challenging part was coming back and being with these frequencies that don't agree with me, but still overcoming them because that's what I wanted. Like, I don't want to be a delicate, like, not be able to be resilient. So it was a lot of work, but that's also where I found the just by chance, the doctor that gave me the gold IV that I'm glad I didn't know exactly because I would have been hyper. Is it going to create symptoms? Is it going to, and if she was like, you could get a severe fever and be in a psychedelic state, I'd be like, I can't do it right now. Right. So I don't know. I feel like it was a blessing. I'm not saying that that's like a good practice, but I'm still grateful for it. And something brought me to it. And now learning about gold, I'm like, wow. And it was like this ancient thing that they used to treat all of these infections and stuff. And, just like mushrooms are anciently used, like it's just bringing it back to like this intelligence that we don't quite understand yet, that we keep getting further away from. And as we get further from it, we get sicker. like, so
That's it. Exactly.
yeah. But I was reading about you and you like a like a spa. Are you a massage therapist by trade?
Yes, I was for many, many years. So I had my own practice and then opened in 2012, opened a studio. It started with bodywork. We were founded in bodywork, and then we ended up opening a total of four. Over
Mhm.
time, that was dedicated to, we called it a mind body studio. So instead of a spa and focusing on external services, we focused on internal services. So we did a lot of meditation, contemplative practices, yoga, sound healing, plant medicine to the extent that we could in a public studio setting. And yeah, So I was
Yeah.
doing that for many years before the pandemic.
hmm Because like the reason I brought that up is because I don't know, I don't know when your seizures started, but like the energy we even get from sometimes having to touch humans that maybe are a little bit off our frequency vibration or something. I feel like I wasn't really realizing it, but it was taking a lot of my frequency, my energy.
100%. And I think foundational, the most important education that we need as human beings is our own energetic blueprint. Understanding how we tick and beat, because we kind of, our soul knows. Like I went into body work. It wasn't a coincidence. Body work today is it's probably the most important health practice I do aside from microdosing. It
Mhm.
has had the most effect. It's the one thing I cannot live without is regular
Me
body
too.
work.
Me
And
too.
I am so energetically sensitive.
Mhm.
That comes with extraordinary gifts, but I have to have mushrooms and massage are what enables me to harness that sensitivity, but
Mhm.
also be resilient enough that I can live in this kind of very overstimulating, overcharged world. Like
Yeah.
you're clearly have a system that is deeply sensitive to earth energy and frequency and magnetic frequency. So anything electrical, like you're a
Mhm.
little like conductor. And so you're going to be the first person to feel technology and waves differently. And right now I think it's happening in the last year because earth's frequency is shifting so dramatically right now. So
Yes.
people that are already sensitive are
Mhm.
really, really kind of kicking off a lot of things. So that's why a lot of us are having like deep relapses of
Mhm.
chronic conditions. Lots of autoimmune conditions are coming back to people. MS like conditions,
Mhm.
nervous system conditions that are inexplicable to
Mhm.
Western medicine.
Yeah.
People going, I have pressure, I have inflammation, I have tingles, I
Mhm.
have burning, and there's seemingly no biological source.
Yeah.
It's energy.
Yeah. And like I think the bad bugs that are able to survive and thrive because this opened my mind to the whole like stealth pathogens, right? And like the way that they thrive and they change your whole frequency, like and how regulating, your nervous system, which is something I already talked about because of the first things that I went through, kicks them out. It's partially helps your immune system and everything, right? And so we lose that because we're buzzing or, COVID was super stressful or whatever it was for someone, trauma, like all the things that you mentioned before, they can end up turning back on. So
Yep.
that's what I felt. And then definitely the changing in frequencies. But I was literally like a conductor, like I was shocking everything. Like my hair was standing on end. It was short circuited a heart monitor, my body, like, filled by, like,
Funny,
$30,000.
funny, not funny, but yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, "You owe us 13,000." And I'm like, "What? No, how's that right?"
That's it. That's it exactly. And we just have to reinvent all that we educate ourselves around because that's the future is like really understanding our energy, really
Mhm,
understanding cleansing and
mhm.
purifying the body. I love that you guys focus on kind of more of a funnel and a pyramid because I see that a lot. A lot, I'm sure you do too, where people are trying to do things and it's like, well, if you do this, that's actually the last step.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, adding these supplements aren't going to do anything if you don't start with your digestion
mhm,
and the
yeah,
movement at the bottom of the funnel, right? So I really, really appreciate that. But our whole, like, how we educate ourselves just from children on up, we can take out geometry and algebra. And
I love those, like, forest schools that are becoming a thing. Those are
yes,
so cool.
yes,
Those kids are lucky that end up there because there you get the real education that none of us have or, rarely we
we're
get.
getting now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting through having to have very hard trials and return to nature. Like, it's beautiful. But so this psilocybin you think could help me, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think most people, there's very few people who don't benefit by
Mhm,
psilocybin to some extent. Very,
mhm,
very few. And everybody benefits. I've had a lot of clients who are like 70 and they're like, I've been in the healing world forever. They're like, they've had long time contemplative practices, they've done all the things, and they're like, how much more can I really do?
yeah,
And what's interesting is they realized how much more there is
Yeah.
beyond where they have been. And so it's beautiful for all people, but it's really beautiful for people who have put a lot of investment already into their health and growth. It's all of a sudden like all those things that you did that didn't seem to work suddenly make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm definitely open to it. Like, especially like I told you, microdosing to me, that's music to my ears. It's like, just give me a tiny bit. Let's see what happens. A full dose to me is like a workup, but I'll tell you that full dose of gold was magic. It's funny. But I really appreciate your time. I think everyone's going to really enjoy this podcast because honestly, everyone's anxious and everyone's looking for an answer that helps them heal, actually heal more than just that one symptom, like not symptom control, but deeper healing. So, sharing your own story and sharing what helped you, and even, introducing this medicine when it's in like a gray area, God forbid. It's to me, it's anecdotes that how many anecdotes do you need before we take it seriously as something that's helping, right? Like it's a little bit crazy. So,
Yeah. I always tell people don't be in a rush to be legitimate because
yeah.
when it's legitimate, that's when pharma is going to really start to gatekeep. So I actually appreciate it being a little weird for people
Yeah.
and finding it on their own and discovering for themselves. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So we're ahead of the curve, but where can people find you? Because I know you also do training, right? For practitioners and clinicians.
Yes, we
Yeah.
just started that this year. This is the first year. We just wrapped up the first inaugural cohort. We're just going into the second one now, and we'll definitely do more in 2026. So it's for any health and wellness professional, clinician, healers who want to learn microdosing skills to incorporate into their professional practice. So some people want to be a guide and do this full time. Other people just want to be knowledgeable
Mhm.
in their profession and be able to speak to this practice within their own existing practice.
Amazing. And then you also guide people through the actual microdosing that are interested in that.
Yeah. So if people are curious, but they're a little nervous and tentative and just kind of want to learn and check it out, our community is a great place to dip your toe in. It's just a month to month setup. So you can just sign up and stay in for as long as you want. And it's an opportunity to connect with guides from around the world, participants from around the world, and get real questions answered by real people and
Mhm.
also get vetted safe sources and resources and connections.
And that's one of the most important things too, is getting that clean source that you've already done the work for people so that they don't have to. And so
Yes.
where can they find you? What's your
We're
website?
all the things are at microdosingforhealing.com.
Amazing. Well, everybody check it out and then let us know. Let me know your feelings. And I'll share once I've tried. We're going to reconnect after this because like I said, I've already been kind of drawn to it. So now it's time.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.